get into it anyway.
Yeah.
So everyone, this is Vaughan Winiata. This guy's the man. He works in corrections, reintegrating prisoners back into the outside world. There's a lot of other things that Vaughn does as well. I didn't quite get enough time to research him, but he's a very fascinating man from what I've actually gotten to know of him. So I might just leave you just to give a bit of a quick introduction on yourself, bro, and then
Yeah, okay, all right, we'll just rip into it.
Yeah.
There's not really that much to say about me. First and foremost, I'm a proud dad. I've got two sons, 24 and 20, and I'd have to say that I get out of bed every day for them. They keep me grounded, and so that's really awesome. But in terms of my background, I guess I'm at a point in my life where I really want to make a difference. So that's a little bit about my passion to help people who are exiting corrections facilities. But there's a sort of a line, Fred, that's kind of when we're ready. And so whether it's our journey with trying to get off drugs, alcohol, get fit, a lady having a baby, personal development, when you wake up one morning and it's let's do this.
Yeah.
And I think New Zealand is at a point now where it's, man, where are we headed and what are we going to do about it? We just can't sit there and dribble. So so that's what I'm hoping over the next little while we'll sort of explore some of that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, even for me, bro, it's funny, like just over the last year, like I think about February last year, maybe even earlier, bro, I was like quite overweight. Still a bit of a chunky fellow, but I like to think that it's turning into muscle. So I've been going to the gym.
Yep.
I've laid off all the substances.
Yep.
I still, a bit of alcohol here and there, and,
Yep.
but I'm not like excessive as I used to be.
Yeah.
And I found that since I kind of, I don't know, it was like one day I woke up. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was like a breakup, right? So
Yep.
a breakup could be a very powerful motivator if you know how to channel that energy. Otherwise, you're just going to fall into a big pit of depression. And so for me, I just kind of woke up one day. I was like, I'm going to start going to the gym. I've got a whole list of dreams and aspirations I want to fulfill. I've got a whole lot of people that are out there waiting for me to make some shit happen.
Yep.
And so over the last year or so, that's what I've been doing, bro. I've just been fucking grinding away.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point where I've now, I was working in film last year, and now I was like, I told myself, maybe it was like, fuck, bro, September last year, I said to myself, I want to start a podcast. I don't know if I'm going to be good at it. I don't know where to start, but somehow I'm going to make it happen. And here we are, bro.
Yeah. And in terms of that, you don't know where to start. Well, you've started, right? And that's my point about when you're ready. And I think that regardless of whatever set of circumstances that you arrive at that point, that holy crossroads where you go, shit, I've hit rock bottom. What do I do now? I'm a big believer that if you possess a robust set of values and principles, and you're capable of walking in your own skin. Yeah. That's really something, and that's something that I consider myself a good study when I meet people. Is this dude the real deal? Is what I see really what he sees in the mirror too? And so therefore, I think when we arrive at that point, we can feel comfortable that our journey will take us wherever we need to be. You can trust the process from there versus wandering the earth aimlessly, hoping that the big lotto ticket's going to come through, because it ain't, and it's like, so people do have hopes and dreams, but it's what are you going to do about it? So coming back to, you've started, right? Here we are.
Yeah.
We're on our way.
It's interesting that we've gone into this topic, because I was just chatting to a bro earlier, like not long before you showed up here. And he was going, oh, how's the film stuff? How's everything going? How's your film work? And I said, oh, it's all right. It's a little bit slower this year, but that's because all the films are getting released.
Yep.
I'm just focused on doing the podcast stuff, getting that up and running. And he goes, yeah, well, I'm going to get back into, because I used to be a pro wrestler, just to let you know. Yeah, so I used to be a pro wrestler.
Oh, be careful how much shit I give you.
I used to be a pro wrestler. But it's quite funny because he was like, oh, I've always dreamed of being a pro wrestler and an actor. And I said, oh, cool, are you back at training, bro? And he goes, oh, no, I'm waiting for my gears to come and then I'll start training. And I sat there and I was like, because he's a lot younger than me, and I was just like, fuck, I remember being this guy before. I'll wait for this to happen and then I'll do, and then I'll kick into gear. And so I just grilled him pretty much all afternoon. I just said, don't wait, bro, hurry up. Get to it. Go. When's training? Is it tonight? Go to training.
Yep.
Or what? Tomorrow? Go training. Even if you're not going to go to the gym, Go and do some sit-ups, go and do some push-ups. Like, just every little bit that you can do to contribute towards that success, it will, one step closer to making it happen. But bro, if you're just going to sit there and go, oh yeah, I'll get it done, but I'll just got to wait for this to happen and that to happen, it's not going to happen. And unfortunately, he's suffering from a bit of depression. He's got ADHD and all these things. And he sent me this big list of everything that's not going on and going right in his life. And I said, good, there's your ammo.
Yep.
That's your reason to fucking get your shit into gear and start training, go and do the mahi, bro.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
And he's just like, oh, you're right, bro. And I was like, cool. Send me a video clip tomorrow of you doing some press-ups. I don't care if it's only the 5 that you're going to record, bro. You've done something, just something little. I just want to see that, bro.
But, man is an ever-wanting animal, and, I include in mankind, so men and women. We do have hopes and dreams that we are pursuing. And I guess that when we meet people, we're at different ages and stages, in our life. And so you'll be meeting people and going, oh, man, you might see a bit of yourself in them because, the 20-year-old Vaughn, the 30-year-old Vaughn, the 40-year-old Vaughn, these are different dudes. And then you kind of get to that point in life where you think, I might be getting on top of this. But, life is a process, and you've got to get to that point where you trust your process. When you get out of bed every day, you're making one step towards wherever it is that you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why I sort of go back to that your puku. We've got to trust how we feel about it.
Yeah.
And keep going, man. And there's a big difference between that and just blind faith and bravado. Where people will talk it, but you don't see them walk it.
Yeah.
So
I think it really contributes to them feeling worse about something as well. It's like, oh, I said it, but I'm not doing it. Oh, and it's just like, you end up slipping, right?
Yeah, and look, all journeys are not equal. So we're all on a journey, and some of them are crap journeys, right?
Yeah.
But I think that your journey will take you where you're supposed to be, and that might not be a very good place. Depending on what values and principles and how you're rolling.
Yeah.
And I think that when and look, I'm not not trying to preach here, but I think that when you get to a point in life where you trust your read of the room, you trust how you feel about stuff. I'm feeling good about this. I like the direction that's going in, and so just let it go, man.
Hard out.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because and this is going to probably fall into a lot of the work that you do with a lot of reintegration stuff that you do. One of the biggest things I noticed about the bro is that he has an absent presence, or his father is an absent presence in his life.
Yep.
Which is, I feel like, just from what I know of him, it's held him back a lot. It's always been him and his mum, and mums raise their sons far differently from how fathers raise their sons, and we see it a lot. And you'd probably see it a lot in the fellas you work in as well. How many of them really have a present father in their life, right?
Yeah. Well, I think if there is one thing in terms of, because my interest in helping people that are exiting a corrections facility and how do they reintegrate back into the community, it makes me realise what a privileged upbringing I had. We were not a moneyed family, but I had a mother and father that would have done anything for their children, anything.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting opposite people that probably some of them don't even know who their mum and dad are.
Yeah.
And so you in terms of the basis of a family unit,
those
people that have access to that, even if they are in a corrections facility, but that exists in the outside, that's a massive asset. That's like a diamond on the floor waiting to be polished. So it's it's an interesting thing, but I think that as I said, whatever it is that you want to do, when you wake up one morning and you go, right, let's do this shit. Have you come to Jesus moment? Shit gets real.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So you're a bit of a religious man yourself?
No, not at all. But actually, that's wrong. And I guess that I wouldn't class myself as a Christian.
Yeah.
But I can hands down tell you that I believe there's something on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, bro.
And I look forward to finding out whatever that is. In terms of spirituality and belief that those that have left us are still here with us. If we want to classify that as some form of religion and belief and faith, I'll tick that box.
Yeah, hard out. Yeah. I've actually been on that journey in the last while as well, where I don't know, just a lot of great things have happened in my life. I've overcome some mad obstacles in life, and I've started to believe that, hard out, I believed in myself enough to get shit done.
Yep.
But I'm starting to think there's something more divine at play, and maybe it is God at play. Maybe it's my tupuna that are finally making themselves present, or that I've opened myself up to the idea that they are watching out for me. So I shouldn't do too many naughty things, because they're probably going, come on, Moko. Like,
You know, and it's interesting is that, like, that stages to stages thing I talked about. You know, a very wise dude said to me a couple of years ago, he said, Vaughn, you're coming up to your 60th birthday. He said, I don't know whether you're planning to have a party or something like that, but he said, I want you to go away and I want you to come back to me and you write what someone would say about you if they, you know, someone had a few words to say about you at your 60th birthday party. And it was really hard for me to do that, because, you know, you wanted to write all this glorious stuff and ego was getting in the way. You know, I'm pretty good at walking on water and I can fly and I'm going to go to the moon and all that sort of stuff. And you cut it down and cut it down and cut it down, and you get down to the pithy of, all right, that's the dude that I'm going to be. And, you know, I'm pleased to say that I got to my 60th birthday and I was very close to that individual. And so, you know, I think that it's advice that I give to people, you know, who are you going to be in 2 or 3 years from now? Just let's be real about that, you know, in terms of an individual. You know, what are your values? What do you stand for? You know, what would be your non-negotiables and that sort of stuff.
Who is that person?
Oh, just a good mate of mine, yeah.
Who in yourself? What did you?
Oh, sorry.
How did you narrow? What did you put yourself down to? Like,
okay. So it was discovery of values and principles. It was absolutely that I realised that the most important thing to me was, no matter how hard things get, how tough things get, I have the courage to punch through that, and no matter. So it was the belief that there was a resilience in me, and so that just told me that there's something else I need to be doing, because that's why I'm continuing to keep going. And so, whereas I would have said that before I was asked that, if you'd said to me, what are your values, Vaughn, I would have made them up. Oh, I'm pretty honest, I'm trustworthy, that sort of stuff.
Hardworking.
Whereas they're literally written on the wall in my body. Now, these are the things that are non-negotiable to me. And because I believe that courage is a value that, if it's there, then honesty and trustworthiness can live well below courage. If no courage is there, it's negotiable.
Not many people really say courage as well, and you know, some people, you know, it's almost like that classic line that you put in the CV. It's like, what are you know, some of your attributes? Like, well, I'm honest, hardworking, reliable, punctual. You know, but no one says
boring as hell.
It's like, oh yeah, you and 20 other people that probably got fired from their last job. You know, but no one says I'm courageous. You know, I've got the fortitude to see a problem and just go and just, you know, tackle it, because you know, and I even for myself, I wouldn't even put myself down to courageous, but now that we're having this conversation, I'm like, shit, when I'm reflecting on a lot of things that have happened in life, and I'm like, shit, that, man, it's courageous, and you know, I could have gone the other way. I could have been one of your clients at one point, you know. I honestly believe that growing up in the hood, like there's a lot of influence there to lead me down the path of you know, being especially one, like growing up, all my mates from back home in Gizzy, a lot of them ended up becoming gang members. You know? And not saying that they all turned out to be bad, but a lot of them ended up doing time. Like,
Well, and in terms of the definition of courage, right? Because a lot of people will think of, gee, you know, what is a brave or whatever, and it's not anything around physicality. No. It's more about belief and trust that we're on the right path here. And I think that one of the reasons why courage, and I think it's something that as a Maori, I can relate to why it's important, because, you know, we're generally up for an adventure. We're risk takers as people. And to do that, it's like, well, obviously it's a calculated risk, but sometimes things blow up in our face, you know. It's and so it's that belief that you know, you've got to keep going, and so you know, the big C, courage,
courage. I think another one that, you know, a lot of people are talking about at the moment is, and we seem to pass this, or not pass it around, but as soon as someone says accountability. That's another big one I've noticed. You know, not many people say I hold myself accountable. And it's a hard one. You know, it's a hard one to take accountability, especially if something happens and it's like, well, it wasn't my fault. You know, I blame this person because they done this and they done that. But never do we stop to take a deep fucking breath, like just really haki roto haki waho, and actually say, you know what, I have myself to blame for this too. And I think it really removes a lot of the a lot of the obstacles that we have with a certain situation or problem, because the moment you can stop and say, right, I can accept that it's happened and I can hold myself accountable for the fact that it happened, then it's like, okay, cool. Like, I think that's the biggest obstacle in like anything that happened. Any negative.
And I think as people, you know, we hear the words like ownership and accountability and all that bandied around a lot, but very little do we see true examples of it. And, you know, I think we'll get onto it later. I think in terms of politics, you know, this week, you know, our Prime Minister's had to boot a couple of his key team members out, step up, you know, and clearly on one side ownership and accountability didn't exist, but on the other it ended up, you know, it was like the buck stopped with him. And so, you know, to me, when you see it in real life, it's great. Because we don't see it very often.
No, we don't. And I mean, well, we do, but it's only in a positive light, right? Like if something good happens, we're like, you know, we'll take full accountability for something good happening. But if shit happens, they're like, you know, we try to pass the buck on as much as, not speaking on behalf of you or me, but, you know, I've had times in my life where I should have just shut up and just taken full accountability for whatever had happened, but you know, I was too busy. Like, I didn't have the courage to. Hey, you know, it all falls back to the courage to just accept it and go, you know what, you're right. I screwed up. This is
and I think a little side street off the courage is that when you know that you've screwed up, you're looking for the lesson learned, right? And so therefore therefore it's okay because you're actually taking something away from it, you know. And I think that the difference between courageousness, let's not mix that up with just being fearless because you're too bloody dumb to realise what's the difference between what's dangerous and what you shouldn't be getting involved. Courage is a consideration. It's you know, making the right decision based on weighing up what's there. And so I think it's you know, backing your beliefs, really, the courage of your convictions.
Bro, hard out. I mean, so we're talking about courage, accountability. Speaking of accountability, there's one guy that's kind of not really holding himself accountable at the moment in Aotearoa.
Just one?
Well, no, there's probably a few. And I mean, he definitely knows what he's doing, but he's not going to label it the way that he's portraying it. So I think a name that's going around at the moment is a man called Julian Batchelor, who's, you know, been going around travelling New Zealand.
Quite physically,
like he's literally travelling New Zealand, and he's inspiring a movement of old retired boomers to come to these halls and speak out against, you know, co-governance. Actually, Nivek, how's that screen? Can you? I'll just play a bit because this is like 13, 14 minutes. I'm just going to play the start. I'll probably get you to stop it when I say so, Nivek. So give us a play there, bruv.
So my videos are on the website. You can watch them anytime. They're the full video of what I say.
Have you prevented Maori from coming in the past?
Sometimes.
So this is my mate talking to him.
Never. No, it's always to do with if somebody, we've had Maori who've come in, and they've come in that we know them. Right?
Not many Maori going in there, bro.
Well, that's the problem. Apparently they're not allowed in. And he's trying to make an excuse as to why.
Somebody who will sit there and be respectful all the way through and listen. That's a good Maori.
We're going to start this meeting and get rid of these arseholes or not?
That's cool. I'm coming in.
Just a message. No, what are they doing? Okay, so are they coming or not?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you're not coming in.
Put your walking stick down and sit down. Go on then. Go on then.
The bro's actually acting quite civil because he could be, he could say some far more colourful things.
This is a meeting which talks in a derogatory way about our people, and you're saying that you're surprised Maori are coming in and wrecking it?
So you're only looking at a small part of history?
No, we're looking at my videos are online, right?
It's hate
We
speech.
let Maori in.
You're talking about stop co-governance on the basis that it's racist, and yet the admission into this hall is race-based.
No, so you're telling me I wouldn't let you in, sir,
because I oppose your opinions and views which are racially charged and motivated, and you have trouble because you don't have the courage to own up to the conviction of what you preach.
Courage.
Maori, the good Maori in New Zealand say that these Maori, the ones who are doing all this protesting, that they are obliged to marry them. The really good Maori in New Zealand, and there are many good Maori,
Bro, we'll cut it off there, Nivik. We'll cut it off there. The old, the good Maori, the good ones.
Yeah.
I'll just shout out to Keelan, bro. We borrowed your footage, bro. Brilliant work, bro.
Nice. Look, to be honest, bro, I'd rather not be talking about Julian Batchelor. He's not exactly a high-class citizen in my eyes. And, the fact is, talking about him acknowledges he exists, whereas in my opinion, he's the sort of human that does not dignify, that shouldn't be acknowledged. But, he's obviously got a following. And his anti-co-governance tour was, in my opinion, a sad indictment on the state of our nation, that there are people that are prepared to turn up and listen to this clown.
Yeah.
It showed that despite our nation being 183 years down the track from signing Te Tiriti, and that we are treaty partners, we still have a lot of people who out there who know less about Māori, probably less than zero, actually, when it comes to Māori. And that's the scary thing, that these people are turning up with these closed blinkers. They don't want to have an open-minded relationship. So, these are people who believe that we're all one people, right? And that's the way they behave. Yeah. Right. So, there's probably only one day a year where New Zealand is genuinely one people, and that's probably Anzac Day at the moment. But, the reality is, and I'll just finish on Julian, because watching that was painful. The man is an opportunist. He's a two-bit hustler who dreams of being an evangelist and having people follow him around like that, which I'll pay handsomely for. He's a shepherd of the weak, of the gullible, of the lost. So, his flock of sheep, they're not actually racist. They are sadly peasants born and bred to be manipulated by people like Julian. I don't think these are racist people. There's quite a distinction between someone who's racist and someone who's just hands down
Do you reckon,
dumb.
do you reckon a good-looking Māori fella might have laid the pipe on a missus of his or something back in the day?
Yeah, well, he's got a chip on his shoulder, that's for sure. It wasn't one of mine, but geez, So sadly, there are people in New Zealand like that, that don't want to make this work.
It's like I've always known that it's been there, but it's still shocking to me that they are around. It's just like I don't understand. I mean, what is it? What is the fear? Where is this fear coming from? Is it fear? Is it misinformation? Is it like what are you worried about? Oh, you Māoris will get all the land. It's like, well, we probably should have all the land now. Like, let's be honest, we should have probably got a whole lot of land back from all the illegal seizures back in during Parihaka, what do you call it, the tribal wars, even from all the returned veterans from World War I, coming back home and all their land's been confiscated by the government. Oh, we're going to give it to all the the returned Pākehā servicemen, and it's like, but this is our land.
Sadly, what we saw there with Julian is there are not all Pākehā, because I've got many Pākehā friends.
Hard out. Shout out to all my Pākehā homies.
But there are people there that seem to think that Māori have had plenty already, that we're lucky to be colonised, and what are we bloody moaning about, and just sit down and be good little behaved brown people.
Would you rather be in your grass skirts or living like this? It's like, I can't compare that.
and we touched on it offline. It's probably a generation that the sooner they leave this planet, we can move on. We just need a bit of a clean out of the pig-headedness. Because I look at a lot of the rangatahi that are young coming through, far more open-minded, far more willing to work together. Than these people that have got their heads stuck up their own exhaust pipes, It was funny how you say that, because like I was on my way to here this afternoon. I was on the bus, and you are still on the bus. But it was beautiful because I was sitting on one of those double-decker ones, and it was like just me up there, and I heard these. I think it might have been about 5 or 6 Māori girls. They're all speaking fluently. Te reo. I was like, wow. And they didn't have to, like, how we kind of like, even if we could kōrero, like we kind of slip into the, tauiwi tongue when we're, just out and about. And we usually just have certain spaces where we kōrero, but they kōrero the whole way from Glen Innes all the way to here. And
I just enjoyed it. Like, I don't know. I think if they were speaking English, I probably would have got annoyed with them because they were loud as. But I was like, oh, there were some exceptions because I was like, oh, that's beautiful. It was really nice to hear, I usually listen to sounds, but I just turn the sounds off and just sit there listening to them.
And I think our real leaders are in the young coming through.
Yeah,
because they've got the confidence and the belief in themselves, and their identity. Yeah.
No, it's so
the less we see of Julian, the better.
I just thought I'd bring him up because he's a good talking point.
Yep.
And it definitely got a fire started.
Yeah, the man's an idiot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there are a lot of other people out there that are like him, that share his views, and it's just like, come on, guys. Like, just...
It's just proof there's a lot of dumb people in the world.
Yeah. I mean, wherever you go, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I don't know, a lot of people say we're getting dumber, and I mean, probably are in a way, but also the people that are brilliant-minded are starting to stand out a lot more as well.
Yeah. They're coming through. You can feel it. So, come on.
Yeah, hard out. And even I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and she's absolutely bright star.
Yeah.
She's already, I've had her in one of my films already. She's a brilliant dancer as well. Like, I don't know where she gets it from.
Dad's genes, eh?
Well, no, I can't dance for shit, mate, and neither can her mother. So we're sitting there going, where did she get it from? But I can see her being a leader when she gets older. She's definitely got that side of me where I like to protest and things like that. Yeah. So I could probably see her getting into a bit of activist stuff when she's older. Yeah. But I also hope that we're going to be so amazing in the years to come.
Yep.
That there won't even be a need for that kind of stuff, to be an activist.
I agree.
To knock on Parliament's door and go, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
That's right.
You know?
No, I agree with you. I think that, we will evolve to a point, and like I said, it's probably just going to take a bit of a clean out of some of the current generation.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a clean out, but
we're going to a dark place here, Vaughn. Like, chill. I mean, even I've probably said a few colourful things to old Don Brash just online. Like shit, this might get me in trouble. I don't know. Don't care. Yeah. I was like, it's all right. In 10 years' time, you'll be gone anyway. It's been 10 years since I said that, though. He's still here, so maybe in another 10.
Just, the thing about Don is he's a deeply intelligent man. Just lives here in Newmarket.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of time for Don, because I think it's okay for people not to look at the world the way you do.
Yeah.
And to have so the thing is, you can have a civil discussion. The thing about these feral baboons that follow Julian Batchelor around is they behave like bloody animals. They really do. That behaviour at a lot of those hui there, it's just foul. You think that, some parts of New Zealand are still living in caves.
To me, I kind of feel like he sits in that category. So what sets him apart from those people that we saw?
I think that you would find that Don, if he was standing up there, he would not get aggressive or anything like that. He would talk his thing through. And like I say, I don't really subscribe to much of what he says, but...
He wouldn't say, the good ones.
Yeah, he's entitled to share his views, and I'm all good with that, because it's not absolute. People don't have to agree 100% with Maori, and we've got to look at our heritage,
Well,
in terms
and I mean, we look at some of the iwi leaders and, and the bureaucracy of that, and
they're not leaders, they're just brown bureaucrates.
Yeah. They don't all agree with each other either, which is really funny. I was actually, because I only moved from Wellington about a year ago, and one of the biggest things going on there was the whole Shelley Bay scenario.
Yeah, that was huge.
I don't know if you know much about it, but I knew is that
apart from me, it was a stink.
And if what I had heard. So if anyone's watching this, feel free to correct me in the comments or message me or whatever the correct story, but I heard that what the iwi leaders had done is, instead of going through the whole system of inquiring with everyone in the iwi, they decided to divvy up the land into smaller portions so that they could sell it off in little increments, which meant that if they'd done it that way, they didn't have to go through the system. And I was like, that's even worse. That's even worse than boldly coming out and going, hey, we should sell this land because it's pretty lucrative, the money's good. And I think also they were selling it for under market value as well, which is what pissed people off even more. So it's like, wow, you're selling off protected land to get developed, and we're going to have no stake in it, but yet from
If something's been sold for under market value, I'd like to know who the buyer was, because that sounds like a premeditated deal to me.
I think there was a bit of that involved, and so there was a bit of like, hey, sure, you know, and come on, Maori, like I thought we were all in this together.
That's
you
right,
know,
lift your frigging game.
But you know, I guess, you know, it doesn't matter who you are when there's a bit of money. It's you really can tell someone's true colours when, you know, there's an incentive waved in front of someone's face. You know.
Oh, particularly with Maori, if you want to find out who the real ones are, put money on the table and you watch the behaviour. You know, sort of thing. It'll be like chalk and cheese, man. Some start to behave all stink, and others keep their cool. So there's nothing like dollars and cents and decimal systems and silver and gold. To sort of like weed out the shit from the shoeshine and Māoridom.
Yeah, it's greed. Greed definitely doesn't have a culture, doesn't have a race, it doesn't have a greed. Is just it's
got no heart and soul.
No, it's got no heart and soul.
It's transactional.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why I'm like, you know, looking at like Te Pāti Māori at the moment, you know, it's like that's, you know, most political leaders I'm looking at now, I'm like, I could see like that there'd be an incentive for them to switch things up. But I mean, the two that I'm seeing at the moment that are real game changers, not just because they're Māori, but Debbie Ngarewa, Debbie Ngarewa and Rawiri Waititi, man. They've really, like, I never really took much interest in Te Pāti Māori in the past. You know, all due respect to all the past leaders, but there was just nothing there that I gravitated to until Rawiri and Debbie came into the fold, and I feel like he's the kind of fellow that will go, hell no, you know, put a big stack of money, hey bro, do this, and this is all yours, and he'd be like,
Well, in terms of Te Pāti Māori and from where it came from, out of, you know, riding on the bow wave of the foreshore and seabed debate under the Helen Clark government and Tariana crossing the floor and all that sort of stuff. It's had a real ups and downs history, to the point where it was literally drawing its last breath and about to disappear forever, and then enter JT, John Tamahere. And if it wasn't for John Tamahere, the Māori Party, Te Pāti Māori, would not exist today. So he's got to be, regardless of what you think of JT,
no.
He brought it back. And so when people get a little bit pissed off in terms of the behaviour of Rawiri and Deb, they're there. And they're making noise, and they, you know, and I think that what we're looking at is the Te Pāti Māori is like a prototype at the moment. We're going to see version 1, 2, 3, 4 out of this current iteration. So I hope at the next election we see a couple more come in there. There's some great leaders in the background of Te Pāti Māori. You know, you Google people like Takata Ferris.
Yes,
future leader. Future leader. Absolutely. You know,
next in line.
He's the real deal. That guy. So when I look at that and I go, you know what? It's like a little bit like the Warriors, where, hey, this is our year, man. Te Pāti Māori will get there. They will get there.
Definitely. I mean, they've come back from the brink, you know, and in a really big way, to the point where they weren't necessarily needed to be kingmakers for the last election, but the election before they were they in the election before? Well, anyway,
no, they've been there since 2005.
Even if so, you know, they've made noise, and I mean, just with Debbie and Rawiri alone, they've really grabbed the attention of a lot of Māori people now. A lot of Māori people are looking at Te Pāti Māori. I mean, you had the minister, the particular, I don't know people by name, so but I know of the stories. You know, the one minister who left the Labour Party, and she's gone to Te Pāti Māori. And of course, people on national, that's the one. And you know, people on the right are like, oh, can you even do that? It's unfair. And it's like, look, you know, and Labour's like, look, we can't stop her from being with her people. Like, and
look, to be fair to all the political parties, whether it's ACT, National, First, it's great to see Māori MPs in Parliament, right? You know, even when you don't subscribe to them, it's great to see our people down. I think that the key thing with Te Pāti Māori, they will probably be a bigger profile in the next electoral cycle, because the strength of the Māori caucus and the Labour Party meant that really they were capable of doing their own stuff without really needing anything other than cooperating with Te Pāti Māori, because they had such a majority with Labour. That's going to change this time, right? We're probably going to see a change in government, which means the only truly Māori representation that will be down there will be Te Pāti Māori. You know, and the reality is, if you want a life in politics and to make a difference for Māori, Te Pāti Māori is the only party you can do it with.
Do you think people are going to swing to national and act, or do you think people are just not going to bother voting?
No, there's going to be. So
Labour.
so that's a really good question, bro. So what I think is going to happen is that the polls are saying neck and neck. Don't believe that for a minute.
I never
There's
believe
going to
the
be a big
polls,
swing to the other side,
Yeah.
and I think that big swing is going to be on the basis that people are just going to go after, because voters, by and large, are dumb, right? So they're just going to turn up and they're just going to go, I feel like a change. So they're going to vote for change. They don't know what change looks like.
No.
But when you listen or scrutinise closely, change probably looks good if you're the sort of person that says, oh, no more wasteful spending, scared about debt, things like that. If you're Maori or you're poor, man, the pendulum's going to swing back hard.
Yeah.
Against you lot, us lot, it's going to be very, very tough.
Yeah.
So
I feel like if you're poor before, then you're still poor. And we're going to have a bigger struggle. I mean, rents are hard to achieve now. I see it. Look, solo parents are a good example. I don't understand why a lot of
But Fred, I think the thing is that the swing, the change in government that we're most likely to get. As Maori, I'm a small business advocate. We will survive, right? We'll just deal with the environment as it is at the time, and look to make the best of that. But the reality is we talked about it offline. The days of the political left and the right, red shirt, blue shirt, stale, outdated, out of touch, no longer relevant. The problem is that the wealth divide. The difference between the top and the bottom. So effectively what you have is ACT is a party for the privileged and the rich, no matter what colour skin you are. National are the Conservatives, but the poor and the underprivileged, they do not actually have, anyone representing them if we see a change in government. You look at the policies in National and ACT, and there is nothing there for anyone that's struggling. So that's, so to me, we're in for some tough times, and I think it's going to be a very divisive election.
Do you think at all that Labour, though, ever really represented the poor? Like, I know that Labour's kind of stance was always the working class, but I'd never really known them to really cater to. It's a hard one. I don't want to say cater to the poor, because it's like almost like, it'll just enforce what everyone says. Oh, the Labour just give money away to poor people and all that.
I think that, you did right. I don't think that they're that effective in communicating with the poor, because I can tell you the poor are more worried about how to keep the lights on or pay the rent than worried about what some political party thinks. All you would say is they probably cater a little better than the other guys, rather than actually the fact that they're any good at it. So in terms of being worse off, a change of government is not good for anyone that's struggling. It really is going to be tough. And, I don't want to be a doomsayer about that. It's just a fact.
It's just a fact. Yeah,
it's just the way that it is. And, so we need to look at where are we headed as a country. It's a question that, when you listen to the politicians talk and you go, I'm not smelling the vision here.
No. Yeah. I'm not. Dare I say it, I'm not smelling the vision. I'm not seeing it. It's a status quo. All I know is that we're just going to keep borrowing money, or we're going to keep printing it out of nowhere, and then we're just going to worry about how we're going to pay it back later. And unfortunately, it's going to fall on us and the poor. The wealthy will not necessarily get wealthier, but it's just hard to tax the rich.
The amount of money that's been borrowed is not the problem. It's what we've got to show for it. So for the billions that have been borrowed, there should be a few new hospitals, schools and things like that. So you would have to have a look at it and say, the quality of the spending would have a question. I've got no problem with the debt. We're good for that. But it's just what have we got to show for the money that we've spent. So it's almost like, the partner's been out on a spending spree and come home with 3 Louis Vuitton bags and some new shoes, but no food to put in the pantry. That's a little bit of a worry. But we could talk all night about politics, bro.
I think
we probably should.
Hey, you heard it right here. Actually, speaking of politicians, if you know Willie Jackson, can you give me his details after this? I really want to get him on at some point. I used to watch a show of his called Eye to Eye. Do you remember Eye to Eye?
Yeah.
I love that show. Me and my grandfather would sit there and watch it. I think I was like 13 when he had it on. And it was just 2 politicians or 2 people of opposite beliefs just nutting off at each other, and he's like, all right guys, calm down, and they're yelling at each other. He's like, all right, after the break, and they're bloody nutting off while they're nutting. He's like, after the break, come back.
Be careful what you wish for Fred. You know, if you get Willie on, man, he can talk, that fella. So he'll suck all the oxygen out of the room. You won't get a word in edgeways.
Well, hey,
it'll be the Willie show.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, if he's good at it, I'll let him.
Willie wouldn't disagree with that.
No, yeah, hard out. I would let him have the floor because I've always found him very, very entertaining. He's had his controversies in his career, but I think as a politician, I mean, trust me, I've had mine. You know, I've been told off by my film producer a few times, like, hey, watch what you say, because your film career depends on, it's like, I don't care, and he's like, yeah, but I do, bro. My name is attached to you, bruv, and I'm like, and that's one of the things that I need to remember with, like, even stuff like this podcast. I'm still getting out there, and I know that. Some people have told me, like, if you're going to create controversy, which is cool, but then I have to think, all right, who's attached to my name? So it's not just my kid, it's not just my whānau, it's all the people that I've collaborated with, that I've worked with on film projects or other things. It's a hard one. When you want to say everything, but you just can't quite say everything.
But think about it like this, Fred. It's like if you are saying stuff out of fear of what the consequences might be, then you are just a glorified slave.
Yeah.
So I want to know what you think. Now, there's a difference between just saying dumb stuff and saying truly what you think. I want to know. Yeah. And I don't have to agree with it. So I think I absolutely acknowledge that, someone's got your back and saying, I need to be careful with that a little bit, maybe steer away from it. Yeah. But really, what stimulates you? Where are you coming from with this, and why are you saying it? Yeah. And that comes back to the courage of your convictions. I've actually got something I really need to get off my chest here.
I think it's also how it's worded too. I think is a big thing. People are really playing on words nowadays, and if you say it the wrong way, people will get. Well, we live in a very in a pretty sensitive time. People are pretty sensitive. About
people have thin skins. They do.
Yeah. I do miss the good old days, dare I say. I mean, the 90s was a pretty thick skin time. I grew up around a lot of racism and shit like that, but I never grew up to let it affect me so much that I'm like, oh, I'm so oppressed, I'm so downtrodden. I'm like, okay, that's just one of those challenges in life. And you know what? They'll see a side of us that they've never seen before that will be positive to them. But I'm not going to live my life trying to prove to them that we are. So if someone has a real bad view on Maori, I'm not going to spend my life trying to prove that we're good to them. It's just I'm going to go out and do my thing, and at one point, if you keep watching me long enough, you're going to be like, my man. You're going to look for the flaws. Absolutely. And you will find flaws, but you're going to find a gold nugget in there. Keep panning in the stream.
But it's really interesting you said about growing up around racism. I grew up very much on a Western leg and went to schools that were by and large mainly European, very few Maori families in those schools. But I would have to say, and I've reflected on this a lot, I do not believe I was subject to out and out racism. I was subject to out and out dumb people. He just didn't know.
He didn't know.
A dumb Pakeha doesn't know he's a dumb Pakeha, just like a dumb Māori doesn't know they're a dumb Māori. You're just like, and so their attitude and that can be perceived as racism, but I just look at it as more, that's why we need a good education system, and that's why we need good history and understanding, goods like that. And actually those people that I'm referring to are like the Muppets that follow Julian Batchelor around. They still walk this earth, sadly. But to me, racism is something that, it wasn't, if we're talking in the context of what goes on in South Africa and the southern states of America and stuff like that. And never copped it like that.
We didn't. I mean, there was some pretty atrocious shit that happened, but I mean,
shivers,
I mean, it's all, I mean, dare I say it, is it a all is fair in love and war kind of thing? Like, it was war. It was a time of war, and one side had to win.
Are you talking about how things panned out for Māori?
I think in general, just
like
how
post-land wars and stuff like that. Well, we're still paying for it today. So if you look at the number one reason why Māori are not performing in the major optics of education, justice system, health, is because of that.
Yeah,
You don't do that to a people and then go, right, now let's be one people.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we're one
and,
now.
Yeah,
So,
and so there is some restoration there.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, are we going to go down the colonisation rabbit hole here? I mean, what do you want to put it on that?
Oh
or?
man, I think. Oh well, yeah. I mean, I've actually talked about the effects of colonisation and on Maori people.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, those negative effects that it has had on Maori people, eventually, those negative effects spans out throughout society as well.
Yeah,
It doesn't just affect us,
yeah,
and that's what people
yeah.
don't really understand. They just,
Yeah.
I mean, bro. When we were on the shout out to the Alt Bays podcast, when we were on the Alt Bays podcast,
Yep.
and I looked
Yep.
through the TikTok and I'm just looking at all these comments and I talked about, colonization and like, why is it that, Māori people, I think I said less than 10% but I didn't elaborate and say that, as a Māori male, I'm less than 10%, represent less than 10% of the overall population of Aotearoa, yet we're over 50% of male prison population.
Yeah, we just perform awfully.
We perform more. Everything that's shit in society, we just seem to top the scales, and everyone's like, oh, take some account, be responsible for yourself, ownership and all this shit, and it's like, stop having a cry and
but
all
I
that.
think objectively in terms of colonisation and decolonisation, I don't so much subscribe into that. I subscribe to restoration in terms of acknowledging that, hey, because the reality is the early part of discovery of New Zealand, yes, the intent was to colonise, and the objective of colonise is, oh, you've got a nice country and we'd like it for free and we'd like you to be our slaves, right? It sort of works like that.
Yeah.
That didn't pan out that well because, when you give a Māori an order, you know that they're not going to do it, right? Because we are resistant. And so what the colonisation thing didn't sort of plan on was Māori being Māori, that we were not ready to be conquered, not at all. And that's why you and I are here doing this, right? Whereas we're meant to be serving tables in restaurants had colonisation gone well. So you've got to look at it and go, actually, let's look at the upside of what colonisation. It's given us roads, it's given us bridges, it's given us schools and all that sort of stuff. Because the next wave of early settlers, and this is why I've got to sort of, my mother is of Scottish descent, and absolutely in many ways more Māori than my dad, the way that she was very strong around the family unit and, loyalty and all that sort of stuff.
White Māoris, the old Scottish.
The narco,
Scots,
they had the heart.
narco.
And so we've got to look at it and go, before we're just going to diss it, be very careful about who we're dissing it. But the bottom line is we can't sweep under the mat that, like you say, prison population, disgusting, health, education. We've had all this crap this week about, people getting upset about doctors being asked to consider the ethnic in terms of prioritising the customer. And sorry, the patient, the customer.
The customer.
Well,
need my repeat customers.
To be fair, it is the customer because the prison system and health and education is a bloody business. People are getting rich out of the misery of our people. That's the situation. I would like to see the people that offer contracts into prisons go broke because there's no Māori in there. Sort of thing. They're loving it. Yeah, jam them in there, eh? We'll sell you the toilet paper and do the beers, that sort of stuff. So the contracts that are needed to keep our people inside are keeping people rich. And I can tell you, they're not Māori businesses.
No, they're not. No.
Yeah. Some of them are not even New Zealand businesses.
I don't even think Māori would ever invest in anything like that. And if they did, it would be a whole different thing. It would not be the prisons that we're seeing now. Which is obviously breeding, you come out, I mean, with the amount of prisoners that get released from prison, how many, in percentage-wise, how many of them are you dealing with? If there was 100 guys released, how many of that 100 would you get to?
This is the problem is that, that for the people that come out into society, the resource available to manage someone through into reintegration, it's just not there, right? So I think there are a lot of people out there doing very, very good work. But the thing that I touched on before, Fred, is that when people have done their time, say they've done 2 years for a robbery or a ram raid or stolen a few cars or whatever. So they're not at that end of the scale where it probably is they're going to be in there for a long time. And they should be. There are prisoners like that. So of the 8,300 that are in our correction systems, let's say there's 3,000 or 4,000 that, there's some way we've got to get these people reintegrated. There's a thing that I call PCI, which is called post-conviction incarceration. And what that means is someone comes out of prison, Landlord's not going to give them a tenancy agreement,
Yeah.
right? Well, corrections, bye-bye, see you
Yeah.
later. A finance company is not going to give them as soon as they see that, so they go off to a bloody loan shark to get a crappy
Yeah.
car worth $2,000 for $10,000.
Yeah.
They're not going to get insurance. They're not going to get probably a job.
Yeah.
So the post-conviction incarceration means the sentence doesn't stop when they're in prison.
no, they're still
the
going
cross is
through it.
on their forehead for the rest of their lives. So the thing is that so what we've got to look at is, in terms of accountability and ownership, at what point does society say you deserve a second chance and you can sit at the table and eat with me?
Oh, but society thinks that they are giving them a second chance by releasing
By letting them out. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And the reason why reoffending is so high is because, Jesus, there's a shit out here. My doors are being slammed in my face all around the place.
Can't get a house.
Yeah.
The amount of people you see, just sleeping on the streets.
Yeah.
A lot of them come
Yeah.
out of prison,
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, great, I've come out of prison. I had 3 hot meals or, 3 square meals. I was locked up in a cell with another fella,
Yep.
But, I had a bed. I had mates around me,
Yep.
we all shared
Yep.
the same common issues
Yeah.
and problems,
Yep. Yep.
and I've got a room with a TV and all that. And in a way, it's like if you're in a point in the prison system where no one's gonna mess with you, you can't. You're pretty sweet.
And so the alarm bells for me is we're in an election year, crime is a political football, and you've got one side of the house saying, chuck them all in jail, harder sentences, lock them up. What is the number one recruitment ground for gangs? Prisons.
Prisons.
Right? So gangs are just going to get bigger.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they'll thrive. It's like the mafia. You can run the business from in the prison.
Yeah.
And so to me, the solutions around people coming out in better state than they went in and being welcomed back into society, giving them their money back.
Yeah.
Saying, right, you've learnt your lesson. Get over there, I've got a job for you, we've got a place for you to stay, all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, society's not geared that way.
Yeah.
And it certainly ain't going to be geared that way if there's a change of government.
No, exactly. It's actually funny. It's not funny, but when I was back in my labouring days, and with recruitment agencies and that, I was doing labouring, and I would work with a few prisoners. It was like the last resort for them. It was like, what will accept me? I know what, lifting heavy shit. And I'd talk to a lot of them, and they always had this staunch attitude. They'd have the shades on. It's like, oh, morena, my name's Fred. They're like, ooh.
Yeah.
My name's Stu.
Yeah.
And then, by about the first smoke, I was like, oh, what you up to? They start talking a bit, and then by the end of the day, it's, oh, yeah, I've done a leg in jail. It's just like, oh, okay.
But, seriously, bro, I don't know, many of your audience, but people that have been inside a corrections facility, if you were if you were in there for 2 years, to unwind that when you come back out into society, it's borderline whether you can.
Yeah.
So the incarceration that happens to you when you're on the inside, the type of individual that you are, and that's why the pathway back into society right now, that's the broken bridge.
Yeah.
It's almost like they come out and they can look over the other side where they want to be, but they ain't going to get there.
Yeah.
And that's a generalism, but if I was wrong, reoffending would be lower.
Yeah.
People are reoffending because, society don't want me.
Yeah.
So therefore I won't respect society. I'll steal another car, or rob another business or whatever.
Yeah, shit, yeah. I mean, hey...
That's the world we're in.
Yeah.
That is reality. That is the clean, green, beautiful paradise that we call New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand. We sell it to the world,
And that's New Zealand Inc. That's in our tourism brand campaign.
Yeah. Look at the beautiful mountains, and then you turn around and
the real world. What's on the other side of the fence. We've been sweeping that under the mat for far too friggin' long.
Yeah, hard. Even when I seen your korero on the environment, how our streams are full of shit.
Yeah.
But our prisons are full of people. Our schools are struggling. Even a few people I know that work in certain schools. I won't name the schools, but what I will say is that they're really struggling for resources at the moment. And meanwhile, we're pumping all this money into the law or justice system. We need more police on the street. We need more. It's like, we do. We probably could do with a bit more police, but we need to get into the guts of the bits in between. Why are the police getting called to these places? Why are they, what's creating that scenario in the first place? Yeah. And it's just, dare I say it, for some of them, it's just too hard, or they just can't be stuffed, or they can't afford it. You know,
Look, in terms of, there's always going to be a bad guy. So in my mind, when politicians run around and say they're going to stamp out gangs, that will not end well.
Yeah.
Right? And so the reality is there is always going to be a bad guy. There is always going to be gangs. So what relationship do you have to the gangs? Can you sit with the leader of the respective gangs as a politician and say, we need to make this work? So how do we make it work? Because we don't want it to get messy. And so for me, the relationship, I can tell you right now, most of the politicians out of Wellington that are saying what they're saying about anti-gangs would not have sat in a headquarters and talked about, you know, where are we going here, dudes? What are we doing? And that's
can we
like,
make this better?
Yeah,
No. And you know,
so we're going to preach from Wellington about, you know, we're going to unleash the gates of hell on you.
yeah,
That
we're never
will
going to
blow
meet
back.
you on the ground floor. You know, we're going to look down at you and we're going to tell you how it is.
Yeah.
And it's just going to create more resistance.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. It's like, come on, surely, you know, Mr. Luxon or whoever it is will know that shit. Are they aware? Like,
Well, the thing is, what they say is not for you and I, right? Their audience are supporters of their parties. So they sit down and go, what will our supporters want to hear?
Yeah.
Right?
Tough on crime.
Smash the gangs. Whoa, you know?
Tough on crime.
You know what? You can back up the bus right back to Rob Muldoon and earlier about with gangs. And is it any better today? So the bottom line is that, you know, there was a politician on TV the other day that she said, you know, about stamping out the gangs. I thought, best of luck with that,
good
honey.
luck. Yeah.
Seriously, you're going to be getting a knock on the door one night. It's just not that you don't want to go there.
No.
You know. Yeah.
No.
Be very, very careful what fight you pick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, they might not have the money and resources, but you make them, you know, create enough desperation and they'll find a way.
Don't get me wrong. The gangs need to pull their friggin' socks up.
Yeah,
You know, they've
hard
got
out.
to a point where we've got a problem here. But, you know, if you don't have a relationship, if you don't have respect, well then, you know, it's not going to turn out well.
You know, the big high ups in the gangs are the ones that want to create that positive change. They're the ones that are able to meet, you know. So, you know, the likes of Sonny Fatu and Eugene Ryder, you know, I know
Harry Tam.
Harry Tam, all them.
Yep.
They're able to sit
Yep.
in a room together.
Yep.
But then you go down to the next level of that crew, and they just don't want a bar of it unless those guys are around.
Yeah, but that's the nature of gangs where the up and comers, you know, the wild, the new range coming through who think the old ones have kind of gone soft.
Yeah.
That'll always be in a gang, in a tribe, in a church or anything, that you've always got that middle band that are ambitious.
There'll be that,
and they want to make their mark.
There's
right?
that power struggle.
And they're going to
as
go
well.
and do
a little
some
bit
dumb
of a
shit.
power struggle, right? You know, it's like,
and that's just reality.
we need to be ruthless, and it's like,
But you know, if we go back to, and look, you know, I sort of, we don't want to get too lost on the whole corridor around gangs, but
not
you
at
know,
all.
in terms of follow the money, you know, what is their business and what are they up to? That's clearly got to change.
Yeah.
You know, because the scourge of society is the likes of meth and all sorts of other stuff that is nasty around gangs.
Yeah.
And you know, bro, you need to diversify. Find something new to make a buck out of, you know?
Yeah.
Ever thought about property development?
Yeah, property,
Sort of
yeah.
thing.
Well,
but, you
I
know,
mean-
all joking aside, any gang out there that has a business model that is predicated around meth, you know, well, that's just not, you know, that's just, it doesn't deserve the respect.
Expect to be shut down.
Yeah, it's like...
And it's not all chapters that are doing it. And, you
No,
know,
not at all.
And like I said, it's that division between the high-ups and the gangs that are going, don't do that.
Yep.
And then those down that are like still dealing with those connections going, well, I need to make some money.
Yep.
Or we need to bring some money in, so I'm going to do this. And, you know, And, you know, all it takes is for one bad egg in the lot to spoil all of them. And it really undoes the hard work that the ones that are trying to do something positive, you know.
But my last word on the gangs is every 3 years, election year, they are always a political football. You back the bus up to 2020 and before Simon Bridges got deposed as leader of the party when Todd Muller came along and then Judith Collins, but they were talking about some bloody hit squad that was based on a model in Australia, you know, and here we are 3 years later talking the same stuff, and we will be in the next election year. Nothing ever changed. You know, gangs are just easy votes. They really are. And the other easy vote is brown people. Right? You know, and so what we've got to look at is what's going on here. We've been played a fiddle. by some in Wellington, and I think that my concern is, and what I say is that this election is going to be the most divisive in our generation.
It's going to be an interesting
It's going to be
one.
ugly, and because no matter what, people are going to wake up on the morning after the result, and there'll be up to half of the country who'll be pissed off about it, and up to half that'll be happy.
Well,
and that's our society. That's the way that it works.
If I tune on to YouTube and I see Mike Hoskins with a smile on his face or a frown, that I'll definitely know what the result is. I actually just seen him the other day walking across the road. I was like, oh, it's Mike Hoskins. I should have asked him to come on.
Well, he is the true leader of the opposition.
Yeah, totally. The face of it. He's the poster boy.
Yeah, and I mean, that's no disrespect to David Seymour, because David Seymour is probably the most informed politician in Wellington, regardless of what you think of him, regardless of what you think of the party. He's smoking it. He's making the other politicians down there look like donkeys.
Yeah.
And he obviously learned a few good moves.
Seems to be him and Chloe a lot, doing a lot of chats.
Oh, well, they're good mates offline. I mean, what we see on TV is just show, because, politics is just theatre.
Yeah.
Right? So they give each other a bit of crap or a bit of stink on telly. They say, oh, we were going for lunch. That's pretty much how it works down there.
Yeah, they've got to keep it civil, because they're all going to be crammed up in that one room all day. Just
look off TV. If they're not drinking together, they're frigging sleeping together. Right? That's politics. That's Wellington. Been going on forever. You heard it here.
I've heard the rumor. I've heard the rumor. Oh my goodness! You heard it right here on the FTG podcast. They just spend so much time
together, familiarity.
Yeah, Chloe and David.
Yeah, that's a long shot. No, I
couldn't see it happening.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Okay, well, getting away from the politics now.
For now.
Yeah, for now. We're probably going to lead back there at any point.
Yeah.
So there's a picture that you put up on Instagram, and I'm quite fascinated by it. I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
And you've got a picture of it right there.
Oh, okay. So you want me to? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, bro, and thanks for asking about it. So
what
I've got here is, and so this is my camera, right?
Yep.
And yours. So you can see that. So what we've got here is a Union Jack flag.
Yeah. Even to the GoPro there.
Yeah. And with the word emblazoned in the middle, Huia. So this is known as the Huia flag. And so one of the reasons why I'm really pleased that you asked, because what this picture is here is this was flying at our marae on Saturday. Right, at Ngā Tukuwaru. Okay. And so that was flying on the flagpole there. And so there's a story behind it. So I'll be quick, but I'll share it. I'll give you the truncated version.
Yeah.
And so the key thing is that apart from being very proud of this flag, and a lot of people call me, bro, Union Jack, what are you on about?
That's what
was a monarchist.
What captured me was the Union Jack and the word, because that's my sister's name too, Huia.
Huia
is a beautiful name,
isn't it?
It's a beautiful name in general. Beautiful bird.
Yeah. So look, the Huia flag is flown by Ngāti Huia, and Ngāti Huia are a collective of 7 marae within Ngāti Raukua ki te Tonga in the Horowhenua.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So there's 7 marae down there that basically align to this flag, or they fly this flag.
Yeah.
And so, I would call it a collective. There might be another word for it down in the Horowhenua. And so I guess that the key question is how did we end up with this flag? In terms of like, so we didn't just decide, we'd, slap Huia on the flag and fly it. And I guess we've got to start with a dude by the name of Lord Onslow. Now, Lord Onslow was the governor of New Zealand from 1889 to 1892, so 3 years he was our governor. And Lord Onslow, apart from being the governor for those 3 years, formed a very warm affinity with the 7 Ngāti Huia marae. And so much so that he even named his son Huia. So his son's name is Huia Victor Onslow. And to make it even more of a relationship between our treaty partners, because bear in mind, 1890, we're 50 years on from the signing of Te Tiriti.
Yeah.
So the land wars have happened and all that sort of stuff, and there's this relationship between a governor. The godmother of his son was Queen Victoria. And so Queen Victoria knew all this was going on. So, it's quite an amazing thing. And so the Ngāti Huia flag, and why I am so proud of it, number one, you couldn't get a bigger brand campaign that we are treaty partners, right? When the treaty was signed, and it started in Waitangi, and the treaty got taken around the country, that this is one of the partners, right? And we're the other partners. And so in terms of the Crown, or whatever they want to call themselves, and, you know, out the tangata whenua. So I'm a big believer that the treaty is a partnership. And I think that one of the key things is, and so he didn't just dish the flag out like a bloody souvenir. He went home, and in 1897 he sent it back as a gift, as his recognition of the relationship that he had. So from my perspective, I just absolutely adore that flag, because it says, we want to make this work. It ain't working, but we want to make this work.
Yeah, we want to make
and
it
we're
work.
treaty partners, and we ain't giving up. We ain't going away. So that is going to fly until we get there and beyond.
Actually, I'll tell you what. We'll lay that flat on the table there.
Yeah. So in terms of, you know, a wee history lesson around that flag, and, you know, Huia's godmother being Queen Victoria, the other thing is, to my knowledge, that is the only Union Jack in the authorised Union Jack in the Commonwealth where the insignia goes on top of St George. The English, so it's sitting on top, right? Wow. Normally the Union, so, you know, underneath there's the Scottish Cross.
So
right?
So if I was to go to a flag store, I could legit buy.
No. So it's very sort of protected.
Yeah.
We fly it at a marae. The original version is quite sort of old-fashioned looking, you know, and the letters in that.
Is
so
it all?
This is
it
a
in
modern
the glass case and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
it is. Yeah, it's a proper museum piece.
Okay.
So you know, it's something to be very, very proud of, because it is proof that there was intent there to begin with. You know, so there was an intent of how do we make this work, and I believe that Queen Victoria did absolutely have a vision that, you know, we would be treated equal, and so the whole land war thing and things got out of hand. I point the finger more at the people that were here.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, that was going on, and a lot of them had not a lot to do with the Crown. A lot of them were just wheeler dealer hustlers.
Bit of self-governance there for a bit, wasn't there? Or a bit of, you know, there
it was the Wild West.
Some renegades, definitely.
Yeah. So I think, so for me, you know, as far as my identity is concerned, I believe that the treaty is a taonga, and it is there to be respected. And I think that not only that, you know, in 1840, we signed something that the intention was it was a partnership. Yeah. Unfortunately, one of the partners disrespected it. You know, they behaved like an idiot, and we're still trying to clean that mess up today. That's bottom line. You know, we didn't do it. Those fellas did it. But hey, we're still prepared to fly that as proof of there is commitment. The journey goes on, man.
Where do you think the missing piece of Te Riti is? Do you think someone's got it, or do you think it's just been
Well, I think that
somebody must have it, surely. It's somewhere. Isn't there a piece of the treaty missing?
You know that our people would not have been so dumb that they would have signed something that was one-sided, right? They would have signed
totally.
something. And
absolutely.
so I think that, to me, that how do we make this work, right? Well, there's 3 words of how we make it work. Honour te treaty.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Because there are 4 words of why it doesn't work. The treaty was dishonoured.
Yeah.
And so okay, if there is an agreement that is the case, and I just think there generally is, but unfortunately the methodology of resolving or restoring that situation, we're getting at a point now where, you know what, we're getting close to enough is enough, man. And I think this is what a lot of people out there, you know, who are not Māori, who think that Māori have had plenty, you know, the treaty claims are about 3 billion, 2.5, 3 billion. You fellas have had plenty. Confiscated land was 4.5 trillion. You know, so you know, you fellas got a good deal, man.
Yeah,
you know, seriously.
Definitely. Even you know, I hear people talking about like, oh, Africa's a poor continent and India's, you know, poor and all that. It's like, nah.
The people are poor.
Yeah, the people are poor, but trust
in the
me,
ground ain't
but
poor.
in the resources, they're resource rich continents, and even Ahiteria, you know, Aussie, you know, it's the same thing, you know, they're just. Yeah. You know, and how many of our whānau are over there digging it all up at the moment? And
you know, and so I just think that, you know, in terms of you know, nice segue off the Huia flag, and thanks for letting me share that story.
No, for sure.
But not only that, it is about Te Tiriti, and it is a taonga that's been dishonoured, and we're going to honour it. We've honoured it. You know, we've always believed that that's our day, and that's why we're here. That's the founding document of New Zealand. But if you look at the crowd that go in behind Julian Batchelor, they just see it as a scrap of paper in a museum up north. Yeah. You know, they have no idea.
They have no idea.
And so therein lies the problem, that 183 years later, humans like this still wander our earth?
Yeah.
Seriously, how did that happen?
I know.
You know?
I mean, in such a small country too. I mean, where were you living in Aotearoa to be so sheltered to think that way? I don't.
Yeah.
Like where? Like people go, oh, probably Invercargill. It's like, no, they're everywhere. That's the problem. They're everywhere. It's not just deep south. And no hate towards Invercargill, by the way. I've met some lovely people from Invercargill.
Yeah, awesome people.
You're like, yeah.
Where is Invercargill?
Yeah.
North, south.
Nice cars.
It is in New Zealand, isn't it?
Yeah. Great car collection down there.
There is.
No, they're all about their cars. But no, it really fascinates me that there are those kind of people out there in Aotearoa, and you know, I mean, we're getting there. We're slowly getting there, in every aspect of
Very slowly.
Very
Too slowly.
slowly,
But the thing is that no matter what, we keep going, right?
Yeah.
So giving up's not an option.
No.
And I think that, you know, what we've got to look at is, well, where from here? You know, like where do we go from here? Because we can talk like this on as many podcasts as we want, but you and I, we go and get our cars, go home, and nothing changes tomorrow.
Yeah.
So how do we, you know, like my Pākehā friends and Maori, how do we weave this together? You know, so that there are outcomes for our people. And there'll be people listening going, oh, you know, we're doing it, but we're not. We're not.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't happening.
Well, even if we are, it's not making an impact, or it's not making as much of an impact as we would like it to be, right? Like there are people out there like yourself doing the work on the ground level, trying to, you know, help out where you can, but you know, it needs to be a bigger collective of people.
I think that, you know, it's the awakening of our people, right? And so we're prepared to have the kōrero about it, but more of that has to happen. But on the basis that there's someone on the other side of the table, and that's our treaty partner. And whatever we do, the outcome has to work for both.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and that's why I'm not completely subscribed to the colonisation, decolonisation, because that's like a reversal that means someone's going to end up with less than what they started.
Yeah.
So the outcome has to be, and that's why restoration, how do we give Māori in general, because many are doing very well, but too many are not, the mana back. How do we give the mana back? And the first thing we need to do is respect Te Tiriti like it was intended to be respected, because it was so badly trashed for so long, and no one's prepared. Well, when I say no one, too many of our people, such as the Julian Batchelor followers, think that we're getting a good deal. Idiots.
You know,
idiots.
Since you've been saying the whole restoration thing, because I've been on the whole decolonise thing.
Yep.
And now that I've heard what you've had to say, I'm like, damn.
Well,
I think that's more the kaupapa I want to be on, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be living a life of some kind of, like, it's not victimhood, but you know, I don't want to feel like I've ever been held back because I'm Māori, even if it is around. I never want to live by that ever.
Well, and Māori by nature, we're angry. We're angry people. You know, we've got a big chip on our shoulder, but anger can also be a positive energy. And so in terms of our people, we don't want that anger to be directed in the wrong way. The outcome has to work for everybody. And you know, a lot of people go, oh, you know, that's easy to say, but how do we do that? And so I think that, to be fair, from the Māori side, the intent has always been forthcoming. Māori are always going to the Crown with ideas and ways to make it work. It's not so forthcoming the other way by comparison. And so that's why I believe that, particularly in the Pākehā world, there are a lot of Pākehā that the sooner they get off the bloody planet, we can get on with it, you know?
We're talking about the older one, these Julian Batchelor ones, by the way, not Pākehā in general.
Yeah, just, you know, there's many,
disclaimer.
you know, and this is the thing. I've got friends who are English, Croatian, Jewish, love them to bits. They didn't come here to take anything off us. They came here to start again.
Yeah.
They came here and they did, and they did very well. Not all of them, but some of them done very well. I celebrate that.
Yeah.
Right? No one wants to get in the way of industrial, you know, desire. No. It's more the attitude that Māori are all square and we've done very well and we're all kaiti pai.
Yeah.
But, you know, but we're still not performing on so many levels.
Yeah.
And you know, what saddens me is that with the change in government, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope they prove me wrong, nothing's going to change.
Yeah,
no, if anything's going
to. I think we always want that. I think we always have that intention, especially for people that can read between the lines when it comes to politics. Is that just bring that change that is necessary? But there's so many factors. As well.
And look, I'm not right on everything. I say what I say.
No.
And I get it wrong quite a lot. But the key point is, if we have a voice, use our voice. Be prepared to placate or take a backward step when you need to. But the intent is an outcome. It is absolutely an outcome, and that's the the whole thing about Te Tiriti. And I think that if you've got Pākehā out there, particularly Aori, who think that it hasn't been disrespected and that we need to move on, well, you can move on. That's my attitude. We just need to acknowledge that we made a bit of a mess of things, and we need to get it right. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, since you're from Horowhenua, just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to Hori. Thank you for the gears, bro. I got mine off you a few years ago in Otaki. Actually, when he was still based on the main road there, and he was next to that.
The main street of Otaki.
Yeah, he was next to that store with the sheepskins or something. Yeah. And they were dicks to him, man. So it's good that it's sad that he relocated, but also good for his sanity and
one of the things that I
sad that there's a dickhead like
give
that.
Hohepa is that he's very representative of the creative space. Has got some incredible talent that are expressing, through their work.
Yeah,
he's a very, very good ambassador for Māori, and I hope that we see more of him. In the future. I love his stuff.
I wanted one of those. He didn't have one that could fit me. I wanted some ovals that he was making too.
Yeah,
but the seam went right up my ass crack. So I was like, I can't wear that. So there was a lot of clothes that unfortunately just couldn't quite fit me. But this one done well. This was actually a part of my wrestling outfit. I wrestled in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was like,
did someone rip the sleeves off when you were doing it?
No, that was just my hulking muscular figure. That was just how these were made. So I was like, I was just instantly saw it and I was like, damn, I want that. So Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him that day. It was his wife Tanya. They're
great family. They really are, and good people down there. And actually, Otaki in general.
Otaki's become a really cool spot nowadays.
I think it always has been, but it's almost like it's hitting its straps because you've got Māori land there, you've got the Wānanga, there's just so much richness, beautiful coastline, great takeaways. I think Otaki's the only place in New Zealand where you'll go in and order your fish and chips or your bloody chow mein or whatever on a Friday night, and the Chinaman behind the counter will be speaking in the reo. Seriously. It's just awesome. So there is a richness in Otaki that's like a real hidden secret of New Zealand. A lot of people don't understand that.
No, they don't. I've been to maybe two of the fish and chip shops there. Impressed with both of them. I was like, cooked fresh fish. Fresh fish. It wasn't blanched or anything like that. It was like, wow, look, it's a piece of fish. And they're going to batter it. Fantastic. And it's such a big thing nowadays for a lot of people because I'm a fish and chip enthusiast. But also with the Māori land kaupapa, we entered a film. Or the film that made New Zealand International Film Festival this year. Bringing Mere home. Check it out, guys. Coming out next month. It played at Māori land, and a few people approached the director and said, hey, look, we liked your film. He actually put the wrong edit up, so it was actually not the right version, and he was like panicking because he freaked out. He's like, damn, that's not the version. And then they suggested that he enter it into NZIFF. And it got in. So, shout out to Māori land for the suggestion because we weren't even planning on that. We just kind of wanted to
Libby and Tainui are doing amazing stuff there. It's a real asset, and what they're putting back into the young, phenomenal. Hey, we've talked a little bit about politics. We've talked about Te Tiriti and a taonga that's been disrespected. I think a real shout out that I'd like to share with your audience is that we're heading off the elections, and I'm not so interested in terms of what party people vote for, but whatever party you do vote for, have a look at their constitution, and if it doesn't say we will honour Te Tiriti in their constitution, don't vote for them. Right?
Don't vote for them.
So there's three parties that I'm aware of. Obviously Te Pāti Māori are there, Green Party and Green. TOP are the only other two that have we will honour Te Tiriti.
Shout out to TOP.
And TOP are the party that to me is talking to the young. They really are. They're bright, they're sassy. Labour Party have we should honour Te Tiriti, but should's a little bit of an out clause. It's like if I don't feel like it, I won't. If you piss me off, we won't. So there's only three parties that will honour Te Tiriti, and we're treaty partners. So that says to me that the other parties either reject Te Tiriti as our founding document, or they don't mean it. You
No.
know, if you're not going to say it, well, then you don't mean it. So
It seems to be
Pai,
a selling
bye-bye.
point. It seems to be a selling point for those bigger parties. Like, oh, Tiriti. As soon as Tiriti comes up, I'm just because I know it's. I don't know. I've lived. I feel like I've lived long enough to know it's not going to happen. It's not going to be honoured by the bigger parties.
Two
dare I
years,
say
yeah.
it.
And look, to be fair, too, like it's absolutely not in the New Zealand First Constitution. It's absolutely not,
Yeah,
not in the
I'm
Act or
good
Democracy
Woody.
New Zealand. But National Party, to be fair to the party, did put the words "we recognise Te Tiriti" as the founding document. The problem with the word "recognise" is I recognise that there's dog poo on the other side of the road on the pavement. Doesn't mean I want it.
Yeah,
You know?
doesn't mean I'm gonna clean it up,
Recognise is
yeah.
a very ambivalent, open-ended, mean-nothing word.
Yeah.
Out of here, right? So until you put "we will honour," it's not a party for Māori.
Tiriti.
Absolutely not. You know?
Ooh, could you see Māori, TOP, and Greens maybe?
I think that top, because we're, how giving a shout out to the rangatahi, the young coming through,
Yeah.
are open-minded to being flexible with who they can work with.
Yeah.
Top has the signs of that. So I can
Yeah.
see Top working on both the right and the left. They're very much a crossbench party.
I actually voted for Top the first time they came in when they had Gareth Mason
yeah,
heading
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I voted for them. Unfortunately, I felt like it was a waste of vote. We didn't even get 1%, I think. Or may have just scraped the 1%
They're certainly not
mark.
getting the traction yet, but they deserve it. If you read their
Yeah.
policies and the teal card and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
no,
they're doing great
great
stuff.
policies.
But, I think that could I see Green, Top and Māori working? Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Green and Māori they get on like a house on fire.
Yeah. I've always. That's what I think. That was one of my biggest things. Is that I was like, I could just see if it really came down to it, to stay in the game, definitely Green and Māori would correlate. I'd say.
Yeah.
And they share a lot of the same views.
Yeah.
I mean, I voted Green and Labour last time.
Yep.
I love Green. I just think they're a little too ideological at times without the practicality of how to pull things off,
Yeah.
And also it's like, let's slap another tax on, which is fine. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if you tax more, we pay more.
Here's
And
the thing, though, Fred.
that
The true
hurts.
Green Party is actually Te Pāti Māori. They are,
Yeah.
like Māori are naturally the
Yeah.
true custodians of the land,
Yeah.
and our environment. And the reason why Green really exists is because that hasn't been a priority for Te Pāti Māori. They've been very focused on the health and the education outcomes.
Yeah.
Environment's not really their gig in this iteration,
Yeah.
but if they decided to turn their focus to it and they got someone in the party as an MP who was passionate about it, I think they, just like how ACT is eating into the national vote, I think
Yeah.
Te Pāti Māori would eat into the Green vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the environment. But they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
But I would say, watch the space.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
an eye out. Māori and Green.
Yeah.
And Top. They're
Yeah,
coming.
Yeah,
They're coming up.
So I guess that we've bounced the politics around, and my gut feel is that the change. People are
Yeah.
just going to vote for change, so
Yeah.
that's why I wouldn't listen to the polls. I think that we're going to see a change in government.
Yeah.
But it really is where from here for New Zealand, eh?
Well, I mean, I think personally we should join the BRICS alliance. I think it would be a smart move for us to join
Yep.
BRICS.
Yep.
BRICS are about to really hurt the US dollar at the moment, which we rely on as well, US dollar when it comes to petrol and all that kind of stuff. Which is now we're going into geopolitics, and that's a whole different thing. So maybe not tonight, bro. But
Well, this is what I think. I think that the people that are leading the political parties, whether you look at David Seymour and Chris Luxon and Chris Hipkins and Marama and James, yada yada, Deb and Robity,
Yeah.
they all absolutely believe they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But they are preaching to an audience that is their voter base, right?
Yeah.
That who they want. The concern I have with leadership, if it's to be sincere and authentic, I actually don't believe there's anyone in Wellington I would call a genuine leader that walks the talk. And the reason
Yeah.
why is no one can tell me who can articulate vision clearly. What's the picture for New Zealand? Where are we going? What does it look like? And how do we get there? There's no one in Wellington that can do that. Whether you listen to Nicola Willis or Chris Luxon or David Seymour, none of them are talking about vision. They're talking about shitting on the other side. Just spitting tax at each other.
Yeah.
And so the key thing for me is we've got what I would call two V words, vision vacuum. We've got a vacuum of vision. There is a lack of, so there's people purporting to be leaders, right? I'm your man, vote for me, we'll all be good, But the reality is I don't smell the vision. I don't see the vision.
No.
It's not there. And that it should be there. So I'm looking at the next row back in these parties.
Yeah.
The people, I look at the Erica Stanfords behind Chris Luxon.
Yeah.
I look at the people behind David Seymour, and sadly he's a one-man band.
Yeah.
You know, if you look behind him,
there is only David Seymour.
David
There's
Seymour
no one
is a
else.
political party design. You know, he's a one-man band disguised as a political party.
Yeah.
I look at like Tākata Ferris, Te Pāti Māori,
Yeah.
leader of the future.
Yeah.
Leader of the
Leader
future.
of the future.
Yeah.
Te Pāti Māori is in good hands, though.
Yeah. National Tamaputaka. You know, if he finds a voice and a
what
bit of
about
bottle.
Shane Ritty?
No, well, you know, I think Shane's been there a little while, and the damaged goods that Shane's got is he stood on the shoulder of Judith and Judith Collins.
Yeah.
And for Māori, you would look at that and go, really? Yeah. And Shane would disagree with that, but I also think, you know, his comments this week about, you know, the ethnicity being an issue, he certainly lost a lot of, you know, respect with Māori with that comment.
Yeah.
So I would say Shane is a fantastic politician who happens to be brown and has a whakapapa.
Yeah.
I don't think he's there for Māori.
No.
You know?
No.
Sorry, Shane.
Sorry, Shane.
Bad luck, bro. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's just, you know, he's not my electorate, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, hard out.
Yeah.
Hard out. Yeah.
So vision, you know, and true leaders can articulate vision. They can sit here and say, this is what New Zealand looks like. That's the challenge.
There is Uncle Rawiri. Rawiri's, I think he's probably the one that stands out. I feel like we're campaigning for Māori Party. We're not campaigning for any party here, but there's definitely those that are standing out, in my opinion.
The Te Pāti Māori has an issue in that their Achilles heel in all 6 elections they've been in up until now is their party vote has never got above 57,000. That was their heyday in the early days. And they run around the mid-30s. You ain't going to be jack shit if you can't get to, you know, that 5%. So what they have to look at is that they're preaching to the converted, the people that, and I think Māori will vote as a block this time around. I think they're going to get a good output, but I don't think it's going to be 5% of the vote. I hope I'm wrong. You know, and I was wrong once about 30 odd years ago.
I want to see them go beyond 5 if they can.
Yeah, but that's the key. Their party vote's got to get up there so they can get, you know, if they've got Rawiri and Deb over the line as voted in their electorates, which I think is going to happen, if they get 5%, man, or 6%, game on.
Yeah.
Kingmaker. Absolute kingmaker.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, is the bit where if I was a betting man and I was thinking with my head, can't see it. Yeah. So there's the challenge. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Rawiri, I mean, not Rawiri, sorry. Oh my gosh. Rawiri this, Rawiri that. Vaughn, it was absolutely lovely to have you on the podcast.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming on. I think I've said this last 2 podcasts. The hardest part has actually been getting people that are down to come on because there's nothing really for them to reference to. You know, they're just like, some guy just asked me to be on this podcast. Like, what the... So I'm just glad we were both on Alt Bays.
And look, you know, I only live a couple of 100 metres down the road, so it'd be offensive if I didn't turn up. And not only that, I've been watching what you do, and I love your content.
Thank you.
And, you know, I think as we get closer to the election, I'd love to come back because we've probably got a little bit more information to work with.
I think we're going to...
A few more polls under our belt.
I'm thinking
it's been
of
a very
having
political corridor.
I know. I think we're going to have an election corridor.
Yeah.
I'm just scoping out who I can get on because I wouldn't mind having a conservative person come on next. If you know any conservatives...
What, you mean a Pakeha?
Well, no, come on.
A conservative Māori? What's that?
Well, you know, I mean, our culture in itself is quite conservative in its own right, you know. Māori
do you know,
culture.
and I think in terms of if you want an intelligent and intellectual corridor with Māori from a medical, Shane Leti is definitely your man. Tamaputaka, you know, National Party, because we've got to show a bit of love on both sides. I mean, bottom line is, we're just speaking objectively here, right?
I will have David Seymour on if he's down to come on, definitely. I'm at the point where I will have...
2 Māori that can't dance.
Yeah.
How can it be that a Ngāti Porou brother can't dance, mate? You fellas, it's in your DNA.
Oh, well, you know, I could kapahaka. That's about as far as I could dance, you know, kapahaka, definitely. But, it's...
Well, I remember when David was sort of bandying around that he was, you know, Ngāpui. And then when I saw him on Dancing with the Stars, you ain't Māori, bro. No way. No way. There's no Ngāpui that dances like that.
Twerking. I was like, mate, what on earth?
You know, he's got a bit slicker. He's got a bit better, bit of rhythm in that. But, yeah.
I think I could see Simon Bridges coming back. I look back with National, you know, in 2020, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of impressed that, you know, as much as I didn't like Paula Paula Benefit, as
Yeah.
you call her,
Yeah.
Paula Bennett or Simon Bridges, I was still like, wow, like they finally had two Māori leaders just at the wrong time, unfortunately.
I think to me, I don't believe that Simon or Paula exercised their voice, and I'd win that debate with them all day, every day.
Oh,
There's no evidence they could show of anything they did for Māori,
No.
but they happen to,
Yeah.
whakapapa.
Yeah.
But the reality is, for me, is the National Party that they were in, under John Key, invited Te Pāti Māori to the table and worked with Te Pāti Māori when they didn't have to.
No, they
So
didn't
to
have
me, that shows when they try real hard and they dig real deep,
Yeah.
they can do it.
They can do it,
right?
yeah.
But this current stuff where they've ruled out working with anybody, dumb. That's
Yeah.
going to come back and bite them on the arse at some stage.
Hard out.
So, you never do that. That's bad poker, man.
Yeah.
Put all your cards on the table like that.
Yeah.
All
in when you've got a losing hand.
Yeah. So in terms of Māori, National don't have many in there at the moment. They've got Tamaputaka, who'd be their star, now. They've got Shane Reti. They have got others, but they fade from memory because I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't really stood
and
out
then
if there is.
the ACT have got 3, but ACT is the most anti or negative, non-Māori party. So they just have brown people.
We are all one. Well, Vaughn, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Yeah,
It's
love the kōrero, bro.
Yeah, hard
Yeah,
out. This was a really
yeah.
good kōrero.
Yep.
This is really awesome. And thank you for talking about the kaupapa behind the Huia flag. That was really cool. And
It's beautiful. That's Taonga.
Yeah.
That's 1897. That was sent out to New Zealand from when you got home.
you said it's a museum piece, so where can the general public see it?
Yeah,
or-
if anyone who Googles the Huia flag
Yeah.
and the history comes up. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you see the original.
Is it hanging up anywhere, like in a museum? or?
I'm not sure if it is. It must be.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the picture of it online, but I've not seen it myself.
Oh,
Probably in
okay.
the National Library or somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, but that there was flying at our marae on Saturday, and to see it, and you go, hey, this is us. Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a flagpole put on the back of my Jeep and driving around Auckland.
Well, if you can get, if you're allowed to get a copy of it, why not?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And people will be like, what is this?
Particularly, like if you drove down the main street of Parnell with that flapping out the Jeep, half the population there would pass wind.
Just show up to Julian's next speech. Shout out to Julian Batchelor. Here comes the Ngāti Huia flag for you, boy.
Kia ora, treaty partner.
Yeah. Howdy, partner.
Nice.
No,
nice.
but thank you very much, Vaughn.
No, all
lovely
good,
to
bro.
hear you.
Yeah,
Lovely
nice.
to have you, I should say.
Look forward to another time, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's us. Everyone stay awesome. Peace out.
Kia ora, bro.
Mickey, bro.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on, Vaughn.